So it's come to my attention that there's been some controversy surrounding some three little words, and I don't understand why. It's just a bunch of people having hissy fits that their status quos are being challenged. Die, cis, scum. So for those of you who've been living under a privileged rock your entire life and don't know what cis means, it's short for cisgender, which means that a long time ago a doctor took 5 seconds to look at your baby genitals and say, you are going to be this person, and by some astronomical coincidence you grew up and said, meh. And you know what, that's fine and dandy for some people, but for the rest of us, we're not entirely happy with what's on our birth certificates. We're transgender. And we're a bitty part of this little acronym LGBT, and trust me, I'll get to that another day. But unfortunately, cis people are the majority in this world, and they think they get to decide our identities and our lives for us. This is a problem that has existed for hundreds upon hundreds of years. Cis people taking advantage of us and assuming we'll stay quiet and not complain once. Well, a lot of people have problem with this, and in particular, trans feminine people who have been most hurt by cis supremacy. There is a lot of pent-up anger, and understandably so. Transgender people are pissed the fuck off that we constantly have to be beaten down by the sissies. So one brilliant human being one day decided to coin the term die cis scum, and since then a lot of apparent outrage has emerged. And you know what? I totally understand the opposing arguments. But I think they're ridiculous, and here's a list why. Number 1, this is not a literal sentiment. No one is advocating violence against the sissies. Now I want you to remember exactly how many times and how often you've heard something like this. Wow, this movie is terrible. Whoever made this needs to be shot. Also, I'm pretty sure that these people who are offended by this die cis scum are the same people that are still hiding in their houses ever since they heard that it's raining men. Number 2. This is a perfectly reasonable response to years upon years of transphobia and bigotry. Anyone who is a part of any minority group is entitled to anger. And if you think that a person is not entitled to being angry at the prejudices against them, then you're probably a privileged douchebag. Number 3. Transgender people are part of a minority group that have to constantly endure the oppression by cis people, and doubly so if they're trans feminine or a person of color. So a supposed attack on the group in power doesn't really mean anything because they already have the unfair advantage and they are guaranteed not to get hate violence because of their gender identity. And number 4, you really shouldn't be offended by this unless you're both cis and scum, in which case I can't really help you and I don't really care to. Unless you are the same guy that's been making all these terrible movies and maybe you really do deserve to die.